I've never been the guy people notice. Not in high school, not in college, not even at work. I wasn't ugly or lazy, just quiet. I worked hard, kept my head down, and dreamed of building a life where someone would finally look at me and think, he made it. That someone, for a while, was Emily. I met Emily at a small coffee shop downtown. She was radiant, with the kind of smile that makes a whole room feel brighter. I fell for her fast, not because she was perfect, but because she made me feel like I mattered. At least, I thought she did. But Emily came with a mother. A mother who, from day one, made it clear I was beneath her daughter. Her name was Linda, and she was the kind of woman who judged people the second she saw their shoes. The first time I shook her hand, she glanced at my old sedan in the driveway and smiled one of those tight, pitying smiles. "So, what do you do?" she asked. "I'm a junior analyst at a logistics firm," I said, proud of the job I'd worked hard to get. "Oh," she replied, dragging the word out like it was disappointing. "Ambition is important, you know. Emily deserves someone stable." I laughed awkwardly, but inside, I felt small. Over the years, Linda's little digs never stopped. "Are you still renting? You should dress sharper." Emily could have done better in college. She said these things casually, sometimes even in front of her friends. Emily would roll her eyes and say, "Mom, stop," but she never really defended me. I told myself it didn't matter. Love was supposed to be enough. But love alone doesn't survive disrespect, not forever. The turning point came the night I finally proposed to Emily. I'd saved for months to buy a modest ring. Nothing extravagant, but it was beautiful, and it meant something to me. She said yes. She cried. I thought it was the happiest moment of my life, until we went to her parents' house to share the news. Linda looked at the ring, smiled thinly, and said, "Oh, that's sweet." Then, in front of everyone, she added, "I guess this is what happens when you marry a man without ambition. Simple ring, simple life." I froze. Emily didn't say anything. Not one word. Just an awkward laugh and, "Mom," like it was no big deal. That night, I went home and stared at the ceiling. For the first time, I wondered if marrying Emily meant signing up for a lifetime of humiliation. A few weeks later, everything crumbled. I came home early from work with flowers. Stupid, I know. I just wanted to remind her I loved her. But when I walked into the apartment, I found Emily sitting on the couch, crying, and her phone buzzing on the table. It was a text. From someone named Chris. It said, "Can't wait to see you again tonight. He'll never know." I don't even remember how long I stood there, numb. When she looked up and saw me holding the phone, her face went pale. There were tears. Explanations. It didn't mean anything. "We were having problems. You're a good man, but I need more." More. That word cut deeper than anything Linda had ever said. I packed a bag and left. No yelling. No scene. Just silence. Because deep down, I realized Emily had been slipping away for a while, and maybe her mother's voice was always whispering in her ear. The months that followed were hell. Heartbreak. Embarrassment. Feeling like Linda had been right all along, that I was a loser. But pain has a strange way of pushing you. I threw myself into work. Long nights, weekends, extra certifications. I got promoted once. Then again. I started a side business consulting for smaller logistics companies. One client turned into 3, then 10. Within 3 years, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Money didn't heal everything, but it gave me back something I'd lost, self-respect. And then came the twist of fate I could have never planned. One evening, a real estate alert popped up on my phone. It was for a house in my old town. Linda's house. The very place she had sat me down, looked me in the eyes, and said, "Emily needs a man who can give her the world." They were selling. Divorce, apparently. Financial trouble. I stared at the listing for a long time. My heart pounded. And then, almost without thinking, I made a call. 2 weeks later, the house was mine. The day I got the keys, I drove there alone. It was empty, echoing, but I could still picture all the dinners where I sat quietly, trying to earn their approval. I stood in the kitchen, the same place Linda once told Emily she was marrying down, and I smiled for the first time in a long time. I didn't buy the house out of spite, not entirely. I bought it because it felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I was no longer the man they pitied. A month after closing, I ran into Linda at the grocery store. She was thinner, tired-looking. She asked how I'd been. I told her, politely, that I was doing well, that I'd started my own company. Then I told her I'd bought a house in town. "Oh, which one?" she asked. I looked her right in the eyes and said, "Yours." For once, Linda had no clever comeback. She just stared, silent. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: closure.